Welcome everyone, and thank you for selecting to attend this seminar on maximizing teamwork during times of disruption. I know there were many choices for you throughout the week or through these couple of days, and really appreciate the fact that you selected this one. And I hope that at the end, and I trust that at the end you will be glad that you did. I am Lynn Whitesell, and I am co-founder and managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting. And we are a global management consulting firm. My previous experience was 25 years in the pharmaceutical industry, working in the realm of HR, organizational effectiveness, training and development, lots and lots of executive development, leadership development, team development. And so now I get to do full-time just the very things that I love to do the most. And so with that, I do have a slide deck that I'm going to be going through today. And as we explore this topic of maximizing teamwork during times of disruption, if you have questions, please type those into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we possibly can within the hour time allotment that we have. I do have a lot that I want to share with you, so I'm going to get started by sharing my screen and sharing my presentation with you here. So I'm going to make the assumption that we can see this.
Lynn, we can see it, so you're good to go.
That's fantastic. So let's talk first about the thing that's on the top of all of our minds, all of us business owners, as business leaders, executives in businesses, and it's how this pandemic, this COVID-19, has really changed the workplace. So one thing, and this is observations of my own with work with our clients, and also observations of other leaders. Well, first thing that's been observed is that leaders led differently and are still continuing to lead differently. Many companies drastically shifted how they operate their business, and you know that remote work has become very widespread, and a lot of that I think is here to stay. And at this time, the best leaders reassured their teams. They provided next steps. Leaders were going through this at the same time as their employees, but the best leaders were able to offer that reassurance and provide those next steps and control that immediate chaos. If you think back, 6 months now at the chaos that it was, they were genuine, they were human, they showed genuine emotion and honesty and empathy, and they showed confidence, even as they, again, were going through this at the same time as it was happening. They were decisive, they took quick action, they communicated effectively, they communicated often. There was a purpose to their communications, and the timeliness was there. They used many avenues, as many as possible, to communicate. They knew how their teams and the individuals on the teams were adapting. They reached out personally. They got to know employees personally that they may not have before. They adapted the decision-making process, and they focused their teams on a direction for that high level of success. So they did operate in a different way. Teams work together differently as well. Remote work forced teams to have more autonomy to make big decisions and be trusted to do so, even where there were teams who typically did not have the autonomy to do this. Suddenly they had the autonomy to do this, and the trust piece of that was huge. And the teams that didn't have that trust had to build it. And leaders had to know how to build it, and teams had to participate in that. They realized that a little bit of structure could go a long way to building trust. So this DYSFUNCTIONS format framework for decision-making started being used more and more often. It's been around a long time. It's where you have a driver, a project leader overseeing every aspect, an approver who is not the driver, who has the final say, contributors or subject matter experts who are offering opinions along the way, and then those who are informed because the impact of that affected them. It's a formal model. You can look at it, but what we did see was more and more teams using those formal models for decision making, especially in distributed workforces. Many positive outcomes were gained. There were new work friendships that emerged and are here to stay. Renewed emphasis on communication, an increasing collaboration. Team members are in a position to contribute equally. Think about before this great use of remote working, and you may have been in a position to have people who were not co-located with you, but the majority of your team may have been. And so a team meeting may have been, there's 10 of us around the table and there's 3 of us remotely. What happened in that situation? The team together controlled the whole meeting, and those who were joining remotely had to find a way to be heard. Now everybody's joining equally, and collaboration is just zooming, and that collaboration is the brainstorming that's happening. Innovation is really on the increase now. There's been a more strategic approach to how to execute, and the culture of inclusion was really strengthened. And again, teams having more autonomy to make those decisions. Some things didn't change. Trust, accountability, results, those are thoroughly baked into a company's culture, whether individuals work in the office or don't work in the office. So ultimately, what holds a team together and a distributed workplace together particularly is the trust and the patience and the support that employees have for one another. And if that trust isn't there, it's the first thing that has to get fixed. Cohesive teams are successful teams, and teamwork is and remains the ultimate competitive advantage. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit. Teamwork is the ultimate competitive advantage. So in order to build a lasting organization, a company must have sustainable competitive advantage. What is your competitive advantage? Have you ever thought about it? I'm sure that you have. It's a big part of strategy. What is your competitive advantage? So as business owners and leaders, what do you think of when you think of competitive advantage? And here I've listed a few likely contenders. Maybe it's the R&D capabilities of the company or your IP. Maybe it's capital equipment that you have, or your superior product, or the customer service that you offer. Maybe it's the economic factors of globalization, if you've done that, or your local economy being strong. Maybe it's your marketing strategy is really, really good, or the access to working capital you have, or low barriers to entry, or maybe your management team is excellent. These are typically what we think of when we think of competitive advantage. In order to build a lasting organization, companies must have a sustainable competitive advantage. And understanding your competitive advantage, well, that's critical. That's about your company's unique skills, your unique resources, the way you work to implement strategies that your competitors just can't do as effectively as you can. Your competitive advantage is why you're in business. It's the reason that customers come to you for your product or your service instead of your competitors. So successful companies deliberately make choices to be unique and different in their activities. And they're great at what they do, and they focus their energy on what they're really good at. Patrick Lencioni is the father of the organizational health terminology. If you look him up, he's written many New York Times bestsellers. One that you may have heard of is his book, What Got You, well, that's Marshall Goldsmith, is his book on the 5 dysfunctions of a team. It's a fable, it's easy to read. I'm going to encourage you to read that book. If you have not, the insights that will come from that are tremendous. So it's not finance, it's not strategy, it's not technology, it's teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage, because it's so powerful. Teamwork is so powerful, and it's so rare. Did you know that teamwork was the ultimate competitive advantage? Well, what I'm about to describe in the rest of this seminar, it's not touchy-feely. There's nothing soft about it. It's behavioral for sure. You can't put it on a Gantt chart. You can't put it in a spreadsheet. Teamwork is absolutely a critical competitive advantage, and it comes down to how people interact with each other. What is teamwork? It's about how you and your colleagues and people you work with and around and for, how you're all adapting your behavior so you can do this, get more done in less time, and have fun doing it. If you could get all the people in an organization rowing in the same direction, you could dominate any industry, any market, against any competition at any time. Wow, what a competitive advantage that would be. So what is hard? I said it's so rare because it's so hard to do. If people aren't working together, work gets very, very hard. So what's hard about teamwork itself? Well, it comes down to leadership. Think about yourself as a leader. Most leaders have a far easier time holding people accountable for results of their work, than they do for their behaviors. And this is a problem. This is a problem because behavioral problems almost always precede results. It's Pierre Nadeau today, the CEO of Lencioni, said it's all about the people. And it is all about the people. It's about the behaviors of all of us. And behavioral problems almost always precede problems in your results. That means that team members have to be willing to call each other out on behavioral issues. Is your team willing to do that? Is your team comfortable doing that? All of us are team members. Think about the teams that you're on. Are you willing and comfortable to do that? If they see their leader balk at doing this, then they certainly aren't going to do it for themselves. Teamwork is a strategic choice. It's not a virtue. It's a choice. And it's a strategic choice. It should be part of your strategic plan on how you're going to build teamwork and how you're going to build the trust in teams, how you're going to build that autonomy that teams really have to have now to be successful, especially in our new world. It's a choice to get more done in less time and in a better way. Here's what teamwork does. Think of these benefits. It increases efficiency. It boosts creativity. It provides a support network for us. It boosts productivity. It enables innovation. It improves morale. It encourages engagement. It increases speed. It improves service. It grows quality. It attracts talent to us. It helps us keep the talent. It drives superior organizational health. So why don't we do a better job of teamwork? Why is it so rare? This is the book I was mentioning, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team with Patrick Lencioni. Teamwork is so rare because it's so hard to truly achieve. And it's so hard to truly achieve because teams succumb to the 5 dysfunctions of a team. The 5 dysfunctions of our team are lack of trust. That's fundamental and foundational to everything. Teams that don't trust don't succeed. They're not cohesive, they're not productive, they don't succeed. They fear conflict. There's the lack of commitment, avoiding accountability, and inattention to results. Those are the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Here's what dysfunctional teams do. As a result of falling prey to the 5 dysfunctions of a team, you may have been on teams that did this: hold grudges, dread meetings, fear failing, and miss deadlines, and miss key deliverables for clients, and waste each other's time, and don't trust. And they rarely defeat competitors. Whereas highly functional teams, teams that are cohesive, are high performing, and they drive the health of your organization. Those teams collaborate, innovate, and perform and deliver, and they wow customers, and they defeat the competitors, and they have fun while they're doing all this. That sounds like a team that I want to be on. So as you're thinking about it, which team, pick a team, any team that you're on. Is it truly fully functional? Is it completely dysfunctional? Is it somewhere in the middle? The 5 dysfunctions of a team. So how can you achieve the ultimate competitive advantage of teamwork? Well, you must root out causes of dysfunction and learn the keys to overcoming those dysfunctions. So counter to conventional wisdom, the causes of dysfunction are identifiable. People think, oh, I don't know why, and they're curable. But these dysfunctions, they don't die easily. We have to really work on them as teams. We have to assess and know where our teams are, and then we have to know what we need to focus on and where to work. We have to be willing to take risk and be vulnerable and be open and honest. We have to accept the value of conflict. You make your team functional and cohesive by employing levels of courage and discipline and emotional energy that many groups just can't seem to muster. Courage, discipline, and emotional energy. Does your team muster that? Causes of dysfunction of teams and the keys to overcoming that. This is a model of the 5 dysfunctions. Dysfunctions of absence of trust. You see it's at the bottom of the triangle. It's foundational and it's fundamental. If there's absence of trust, there's going to be fear of conflict. If you can't have that conflict and get ideas out on the table, there's going to be lack of commitment. With lack of commitment, because there's lack of clarity and closure, there's no accountability. Without having that accountability, results don't happen. So let's talk more about the 5 behaviors now. Let's switch. What are the 5 behaviors of highly successful teams? Highly successful teams are cohesive. Number 1, they are cohesive and they are productive because of their cohesiveness. So how do you build a cohesive team? You have to create a team climate that facilitates productive emotional experiences. Your team will achieve greater collaboration and performance with these productive emotional experiences. You know that you have to have a shared mission and vision and values, and that should be something that is very thoughtful and planful on your part. And in the end, it should be something that's easy for all of your employees to understand and to know, and to if you ask them what's the mission or vision of your company, they should be able to tell you what is the culture of your company and what are the values that your company aspires to and requires. They should absolutely know that. You have to establish clear roles and responsibilities. And what are the expected behaviors of our team? Do you have team charters where you lay out the expected behaviors? Do you have a framework for making decisions and resolving conflicts? And most importantly, you have to commit to an environment of trust. So you have the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team compared here to the 5 dysfunctions model. So where there's absence of trust, there needs to be building trust. Instead of fear of conflict, there must be mastering conflict. Instead of lack of commitment, there has to be achieving commitment. Instead of avoidance of accountability, there has to be the embracing of accountability. And instead of inattention to results, there has to be focus on results. So those are the 5, that's the 5 behaviors model of cohesive and productive teams. The foundation of a cohesive team is trust, period, end of story. And Pierre Naudé again today, he was asked the question, quoting the question, how do you set people up and teams up for success? And here's what he said. He said, it's all about trust and empowerment. And he also mentioned removing demotivating factors and respecting employees and showing interest in employees as people. And people having a sense of, I can excel here because I and the teams I am on are trusted. So that's what he was talking about. Now a $9 billion company founded here in Wilmington. I found if you haven't seen his talk, I hope you get the chance to see a recording of it. It was very inspiring. And again, he talked a lot about how he builds trust. So the foundation of a cohesive team is trust. Without authentic and vulnerable trust, a cohesive team can't exist. Team members must feel safe to genuinely be transparent with one another. This is what we talk about when we mean vulnerable trust. Your team members must be able to say things and unafraid to say things like, I was wrong, or you were right, or I made a mistake, or I need help, or I'm not sure, or you're better at that than I am, or I'm sorry. How many teams have you been on where those words were rare as hen's teeth when somebody would admit that they were wrong or they didn't know how to do something, or that somebody else on the team had a better grasp of it? How many times were people willing to genuinely say, I'm sorry? Unless team members can bring themselves to readily speak these words when the situation calls for it, and that's being authentic, they will waste time and energy thinking about what they should say, and wondering about the true intention of their peers. Tell you what they're not doing. They're not assuming positive intent. They're looking for true intentions of their peers that may not be assuming positive intent of their peers. So building trust, foundational. Here's what trust looks like. On a team that has great trust, the team members are not afraid to admit the truth about themselves. They're not afraid to be vulnerable and open to one another and honest and have transparent conversations. Trust has to be maintained. You have to keep working at it. And it's not about time. People say it takes a lot of time to build trust. You know what it takes? It takes a whole lot more courage. It takes a lot of courage to build trust, because self-preservation is a huge thing to overcome. And self-preservation and feeling the need to do that stems directly from distrust and lack of trust. With trust, there's not political behavior that wastes everybody's time and energy. Without trust, there's a lot of that. You have to be able to trust one another on a fundamental emotional level and be completely open without filters. And we recognize these symptoms of absence of trust. There's a game of masquerade going on. People are pretending to know things they don't. They're looking out for themselves. They don't want anybody to see them sweat, so to speak. They waste time and energy thinking about, again, what they should say and wondering about the intentions of others. And when you have that kind of environment for your teams, boy, let me tell you, it's going to be really, really hard to ultimately get the results that you have and that you need for your clients, that you need to have that true and honest competitive advantage of real honest teamwork. Mastering conflict. So when you build trust and you have that trust, that enables you to master conflict. Because team members are able to engage in healthy conflict with each other, not afraid to do so. So only team members who trust one another are going to feel comfortable engaging in that unfiltered, that passionate debate around issues and decisions, things that are important to the team. Teams who have mastered conflict are able to tap into the skills of all team members, get all ideas out on the table, consider all perspectives and opinions in their decision making. And teams that don't trust and thus haven't mastered conflict don't. People inevitably have ideas that they don't put on the table because they're afraid of the reaction of the team. And they're busy wondering about what others are going to think. And they're not willing to engage in that healthy debate and put their opinions and ideas out there. So on a team that has mastered conflict, you have that unfiltered debate. You push each other outside of emotional comfort zones, but you uphold each other because you trust each other and you trust that you're able to push each other outside of emotional comfort zones. You don't hesitate to disagree or challenge or question one another in the spirit of finding the best answer. So not in the spirit of tearing each other down. That's absence of trust. But in the spirit of holding each other up, but pursuing the truth relentlessly. and pursuing the best answers and getting the best decisions and getting the best outcomes and not avoiding conflict. And almost worse than avoiding or having conflict that's unhealthy is that avoidance of conflict where there is fake agreement on things. And this fake agreement and this masquerade that teams go through certainly doesn't lead to any kind of cohesiveness or success as a team. They're not afraid to engage in passionate dialogue around key issues and key decisions with teams that have mastered conflict. When you have fear of conflict, you probably recognize some of these. The politics go crazy. The hallway conversations are off the chain. People walk out of a meeting and straight into a hallway conversation. Can you believe what so-and-so did, or what happened here, what somebody said, or I know they wanted to say this and they didn't. There's competition in the team that's not healthy, and people are all about winning the argument and being the winner rather than getting all the ideas out there and picking the best, making the best decision. It can be mean-spirited, and that's not healthy. Our ability to engage in passionate, unfiltered debate about what we need to do to be successful will determine our future as much as any products we develop or partnerships we sign. Look at that quote from Patrick Lencioni. Our ability to engage in passionate, unfiltered debate. You can't do that if you don't trust your team members. You can't engage in that passionate, unfiltered debate. And so teams that now have built trust and mastered the conflict, they're able to achieve commitments. So when team members are able to offer opinions and debate ideas, they're going to be more likely to have that clarity that's required because all the ideas are out there and the buy-in that's needed, and to honestly support it, not just give a handshake support. Oh yeah, we'll do that, and walk out and say, that's not going to work. I'm not doing that. So that's not real commitment. Real commitment doesn't happen sitting around a table, or real commitment doesn't happen sitting on a Zoom call and nodding agreement and then moving on and do whatever you're going to do anyway. So when people know that their colleagues have no reservations about disagreeing with one another and that every available opinion and perspective has been aired, that's when a team will have the confidence to embrace it. It's about a group of intelligent people buying into a decision precisely when they don't naturally agree. Let me say that again. A group of intelligent people buying into a decision precisely when they don't naturally agree. So commitment is achieved. You get that genuine commitment when you have buy-in and clarity and everybody feels heard and there's a clear direction, there's support for the decision, and that support is honest. Here's some symptoms of lack of commitment. Teams delay things. They delay decisions. They delay a lot of things. Team members are very frustrated. I certainly have been on very frustrating teams. So it's like, I just don't even want to be a part of this team anymore. But with work teams, you can't just opt out often. You don't feel heard. The clarity of direction probably just doesn't exist. And these head nods are so disruptive to teams where people nod their head and fake agreement and move on without really committing. So most people, look at this quote from Patrick Lencioni, most people don't really need to get their way in order to buy into a decision. They just want to have their ideas heard and understood and considered and explained within the context of the ultimate decision. They want to have their ideas heard, whether it's selected or not. That is what helps people buy in. So once a team has built trust and mastered conflict and achieved the commitment, then the team can embrace accountability. So what happens on a lot of teams is they expect the leader to hold everyone accountable. But on truly cohesive teams, thus productive and successful teams, they hold each other accountable. They step into that discomfort of holding each other accountable, of telling someone what he or she needs to hear, whether or not they want to hear it. They go directly to each other with frank, honest feedback. And again, and that is in a spirit, in a positive spirit with best intentions of building trust. They remind one another when they're not living up to their agreed upon standards or not using the behaviors that they've agreed on. And they realize by holding back on doing this, they're hurting not only the team, they're hurting their teammates and they're hurting themselves. So when teams embrace accountability, they trust and respect each other. It enables them to overcome that challenge of building a team in which people do hold one another accountable. And they're able to overcome that understandable reluctance to give one another critical feedback. When accountability is embraced, almost always you have a leader who is role modeling accountability. On a strong team, that accountability occurs directly among peers. It's not just expectation of the leader to hold the team accountable. The peers hold each other accountable with that willingness to confront the difficult issues and give each other honest feedback. When there's avoidance of accountability, there's a lot of finger pointing. Everybody looks to the leader to hold everybody accountable. There's that tattletale mentality, of a 7-year-old, and there's certainly not ownership. So what does Patrick Lencioni have to say about accountability? He says that more than any policy or system, there is nothing like the fear of letting down your respected teammate that motivates people to improve their performance. When you're on if you've ever been on this team, and I pray that you have, and if you have teams now that need to get there, can help you do that. But when you are, you recognize, wow, this is what teamwork is, and I don't want to let down my teammates. You feel that deeply within your soul. And once teams, again, have built the trust and mastered the conflict, achieved the commitment, they're holding and each other accountable and embracing that accountability, that's when there's true focus on results and collective outcomes here. And the only way a team can be certain it's going to remain focused on collective results is to ensure that team members are holding one another accountable, focusing obsessively on the collective results of the entire organization. And these teams that are truly optimized to the max, they're actually intolerant of actions, behaviors that serve the interest of the individuals of the team instead of the common good of the team. Think about that. They're intolerant of it. They call each other out on it in a very honest way, in a transparent way. And as a result, team members are willing to make sacrifices in order to drive the collective results of the team. So it's collective results. So if a team consists of the leader of this part of the company, marketing, and the leader of your sales department, and the leader of your operations department, and the leader of HR department, they're all representing their silos, so to speak. And that's what they're thinking of, is what's best for the sales in my area, what's best for instead they're focusing on what is best for our company and bringing our strategic focus forward for the success of our company. That is when you truly, truly get that competitive advantage of true teamwork. It's when there is a focus on those collective results and those collective outcomes. Teams that trust one another, engage in conflict, and commit to decisions and hold one another accountable and set aside their individual needs and their individual agendas, and they focus almost exclusively on what's best for the team. They establish their own measures for success, these teams do, and they don't allow themselves wiggle room. They establish their own measures for success. Here's what success looks like for this team, and they don't give themselves wiggle room, themselves or their teammates, wiggle room or subjectivity on what that success looks like. Have you defined in that way success for your teams? They eliminate any ambiguity, any interpretation when it comes to what success looks like. When there's inattention to results and that collective outcome, the silo mentality I mentioned, it's about me, it's about my team. There's a strong tendency to look out for ourselves, to protect myself, to protect my team. Then a quote here from Patrick Lencioni on focusing on results. It's that the ultimate goal of building greater trust, conflict, commitment, accountability is that one thing. It's the achievement of results. Teamwork is the single most untapped competitive advantage that any company can have. There are very few teams that have truly optimized teamwork in every way, where they trust one another, genuinely transparent and honest with one another, able to build that vulnerability-based trust that we talk about, They engage in conflict around ideas. The team members are able to engage in unfiltered, constructive debate, healthy debate around those ideas and commit to decisions. And when team members are able to offer opinions, debate ideas, that's when they're going to be more likely to commit to the decisions and hold one another accountable and committed to that clear plan of action and focus on those collective results. So the ultimate goal, again, of building the trust and conflict committed and accountability is the achievement of results. So in summary, why teamwork? Well, why not? It makes teams that are truly cohesive make better, faster decisions. They tap into the skills and opinions of all their team members. They don't waste time and energy on politics and confusion and destructive conflict. They avoid wasting time about the wrong issues and revisiting the same topics over and over again because of a lack of buy-in. They have more fun, and they create the ultimate competitive advantage. So why not teamwork? It takes a lot of work. Bringing together everyone's personalities and preferences to form a cohesive, productive team takes a work. It takes a lot of work, but the payoff can be tremendous. It can be huge for the individual members of the team, for the team, and for the organization. Do you know where your teams stand in teamwork? Do you have any idea how to measure that? How can you assess your teams? Well, Lencioni does have assessments and customizable workshops, and those workshops and assessments have one mission, and that's to help people build truly cohesive and effective teams that deliver results. Those workshops focus on existing teams putting the model into practice. And in these workshops, participants gain not just the knowledge of the model and how the team is currently performing based on the assessments you do with the team members, but also with concrete ideas of where the team needs to focus its energy going forward. So, you know, if a team can focus on one thing and improving that one thing, what would it be that would lead to? So sometimes we see, hey, the foundation is broken. There's not trust. How do we build that trust? Sometimes you'll see the team is not willing to enter into conflict, or the silo mentality is still existing, or there's a lot of handshake agreements happening around the table and people are walking out having the hallway conversations, and it's not a true and authentic agreement to do so. So with that, there's a lot more that I could say about teamwork and about really harnessing the true competitive advantage that you get from teamwork. But maximizing teamwork during times of disruption, maximizing teamwork is always important, always, always. During times of disruption, you really have to find ways to do it. It's imperative, you have to do it. So I've enjoyed sharing this with you today. If you want more information about this, if you think that you would like to find out about assessing your teams or what a workshop would look like, if you have any questions whatsoever, please just visit our website or call us. We'd be happy to talk with you about it. And there's the numbers. You can call any of those numbers. Email me directly. You can email my business partner, Lori Harris, at Harris Whitesell Consulting as well. And we'd be happy to help you with that. And so at this point, I'm going to stop sharing. And I would like to entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, Lynn, this is Maggie on the back end here. We do have a question. I'm going to bring in Darcello to the conversation, if you'll give me just a minute.
Sure.
All right, here we go. So Darcello, I have promoted you to panelist, so you're able to ask Lynn your question.
Hey, Darcella.
Let me get her off unmute. There we go.
Oh, still see a mute sign there. There we go.
Okay, Darcello.
I'm Darcel. As a HR specialist, what is your position or strategy for JEDI? Justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. What are some of your strategies knowing the day's climate? Thank you so much, and I enjoyed your presentation.
Sure, absolutely. So I feel like the best team you could possibly have are the most diverse teams that you can possibly have. You need diversity in every way. You need diversity of life experience. You need diversity of thought. You need diversity of capabilities. You need diversity. You need people who are different from you. And you need that in order to get the best ideas, all the ideas out on the table, to discuss them as a team and to get all the best of everyone. The biggest mistake that I see Darcel, leaders make, and team leaders, business leaders, whatever it may be, is hiring people who are just like them, hiring people whose strengths are just like them, hiring people whose behaviors are just like them, hiring people who look just like them, only because that's what they're comfortable with. And I tell them, if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to be building a team of many me's, then you don't need a team. You only need yourself, because there's richness in diversity and there's necessity in diversity to truly optimize the power of teams and the results of organizations.
Great. Lynn, is there anything else? Are there any tips that you would like to leave our attendees, that they can go back to their office this afternoon or tomorrow and work on building those teams and use some tips and use some practical advice within their workplace?
Absolutely. We're going to send out to you just a summary of this. It's just a quick, maybe a PDF document that will have some tips and some ideas for you and kind of summarize some of what we talked about. But I'd say you leave this. I hope you're leaving this very thoughtful. And you're thinking about your teams, and you're thinking about, are my teams optimized? Are my teams truly cohesive? Do I have all of those factors of trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results? And so first thing is the thought process and the awareness of that. Secondly, I would truly encourage you, I'm not in any way, gain anything from you doing this, but order the book. You could get a used one for less than 10 bucks. You get a new bucks or a new one for like 12 or something from Amazon. Read Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Read that fable. It will really get you thinking about this. So that's a tip as well. I truly believe in learning and learning through books. And I don't typically recommend books. And then I would also say, please reach out to us. Reach out to Harris Whitesell Consulting. We are authorized partners. We've gone through a lot of training on this. We have a lot of expertise and experience and certifications in team building. And again, authorized partners with the 5 Behaviors of a Team and with Patrick Lencioni's organization in doing so. We'd love to chat with you, even if it's just to give you points and tips on that. So I would say those things: educate yourself and make sure that you don't just leave here and go, that was interesting. She had some interesting points. Now let me get busy in the day-to-day. We all get so busy being busy that we put behind us things that are really, really important. And I can't think of many things, especially now, that's more important than maximizing teamwork during times of disruption. So that would be my tip, is to don't ignore this. Don't put it aside. Keep it in the forefront. Decide what you want to do and what you need to do, even if it's just having another, conversation around it.
Great. Well, thank you, Lynn, so much for all the wonderful information. I do want to also mention that Harris Whitesell will have a roundtable discussion at 12:30, so please be sure to join them. The title of that conversation is Leading Through Disruption. Again, Lynn, thank you so much. You've got a great team over there at Harris Whitesell Consulting, and we look forward to seeing you again at 12:30.
Okay, great. Thank you all. I appreciate your attendance today.